Today we are joined by Byron Stripling, trumpet extraordinaire and artistic director of the Columbus Jazz Orchestra. Thank you so much for being with us
Thank you so much for having me, and it's great to always be at the Eastman area. I have all my friends here. Dr. Ricker, Bill Dobbins is still here, Richard Thompson. This is I don't want to talk too much on your tapes, but your college years, these 4 years can absolutely change your life. The experiences that I had here were so incredible, and they stayed with me for all my life, and they're still with me. So when I come back here, it's really a remembrance. I think that's why so many people have such a strong connection to those college university years, because my years here were so invaluable for me. The things I learned. Maybe we'll get into that later. But
now, you started off as a classical trumpet major, correct?
Right. When I came, there was no jazz major.
Okay.
You know, it was only you could only do classical music. I auditioned. I played the Haydn Trumpet Concerto, then I played the Brandenburg, a little bit of the Brandenburg. This is the first I played a little bit of the Brandenburg No. 2 on a piccolo trumpet. I was in high school. I played about. I go bum 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 bum, and that's all I knew, and I had it memorized. But I could nail the crap out of it, and I played that at my audition, and the guy went, "Whoa!" And I acted like I could do the whole thing. Yeah, I play that any time. Something. And I acted real arrogant, like I could really play classical, but I couldn't. That was the only thing I could play. And they said, "Let him in," and they even gave me some scholarship, for that, just for playing those 4 bars of the Brandenburg. But yeah, I was a classical major. Isn't that a long answer to your short question?
No, it's great. So you are an artistic director now for the Columbus Jazz Orchestra. One of the most challenging things that orchestras have today is to bring in new audiences, and I'm sure that's a big challenge for you. What are some of the answers that you have found to that question, and how are you bringing in new audiences?
Well, I think one of the things, and this is a very sensitive subject, and I'm very sensitive. And it's a very sensitive subject in that we all know change is difficult, and to change the way that one has been doing something for a number of years is difficult, especially when you feel that there's a tradition and almost like a heritage, a way of doing things. And traditionally, when you come out to play a classical concert and some jazz concerts, there's an air about the way that you walk on stage that you feel a certain dignity to this music, and it's glorious. The music, all the great classical music that we all love so much, Beethoven, Brahms, Mahler. I mean, who doesn't want to play a Mahler symphony here? And when you walk out here, you're dressed in your tuxedo and you're very proud, and you show the dignity of that music when you walk out. Here's the problem. That attitude might be a little bit much for those people out there. So who are those people? They're walking out and their noses are up tight, and they're very tight in this area when they walk on, so there's that little bit of from them. So what's a way that we can welcome them? Because they're told if they clap between a movement, "Oh, what are you doing, you dummy? You're clapping between movements." Well, what if they liked it? Now, I'd love to see an orchestra concert where after a movement or after a move, they say, "Hey, man, did y'all hear Ray Ricker playing that solo? He played his tail off. Give him a big hand," And that's like, that is a welcoming, and this is just my opinion. But here's what I try to do when I give a concert, whether it's tonight or whether it's with my own orchestra. When I walk in, the first thing I want to do is give the audience a big hug. And to welcome them in. And you do that through your physiology, the way that you move your body, and the way that you, just through your air, you can say, "Welcome, thank you." The first thing we have to remember is that these people came, and in some cases, they're paying $50 to come hear this concert. If I'm paying $50, you better give it up. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of money. So we have to be mindful of that as musicians. And so the first, I give people a big hug. But then what are the other ways that we can welcome them into this process? Are there ways before and after the concert? And during, obviously. The event itself has to be over the top and overwhelming. Each concert, unfortunately, has to be like over the top in terms of what it brings to the audience. That's what I'm working on now with this show with RPO, trying to get to that level. But before, how can you prep the audience? What things and information can you give them? I make a YouTube video before every concert with my band. And I tell the audience what they're going to hear, what they're going to experience, and what we're doing for them. Then you need to do a follow-up. What can you do afterward to say, if you like that one, I want to suggest to you, why don't you listen to this and check out this artist and check out, it's very similar. If you like that, check out this. By the way, here's some photos from the last concert. Here's the guest artist's website address. You can go to that. On and on. How can we enhance this experience all the way around? This is the way. This way we'll get a continuing audience, because what we're trying to do is build bridges for audiences. We want to welcome them any way we can. How can we get them to come over to where we are in the beginning, but it doesn't end there. That's why I say after the concert. How can you continue to provide the experience for them? So you do that through the media that's readily available now, and we use it and we access it in a 21st century way.
Got it.
That was a short question and another really long answer.
That's a great answer.
Are you getting really tired of my answers yet?
No, no, I can listen
If
to
you are,
talk all
during the
day.
course of the answer, just slap me upside the head. Just some pow like that, okay?
So now you get to play with your orchestra too.
Right.
And what is your favorite part of all of the different jobs that you get to do right now? And how do you balance being a musician versus being an artistic director?
Well, basically, it's all about being a musician. Being an artistic director is fun because I get to do those things we just spoke about. Try to figure out how I can enhance the experience for a listener in the 21st century. But obviously, what's most fun for me is playing and singing, being on stage. I'm the type, honestly, if I'm not performing a concert, I'm introverted, believe it or not, and I get a little depressed if I'm not on stage after a couple days or so. My wife is like, get out the house. You need to go work. You know, Dr. Ricker probably has that too. You're bugging me. Go find a gig. You know, it's like, but look, I got to tell you what was, and this is off the subject, but what was inspiring about being in this school at the time I was a student was that everything I was taught by, like Dr. Ricker, Bill Dobbins, Rayburn Wright were my professors at the time. They didn't just teach it, but they did it. So at that time, I could remember JP's Dr. Ricker?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
He would play sax with the Bill Dobbins little quintet or quartet they put together. So I could go hear him play what he was teaching me in improv classes and different things. He'd say, well, practice this and do that and so forth and so on. Well, I could go see him doing it. And then he'd come and he'd say, yeah, you know, and maybe you should, in your career, you might want to write some books. Well, when we went to the bookstore across the street, Ricker had like a stack of books that he had written, you know, and all this. So I think it's one thing to teach it, but your students, very much like when you have kids, and what I try to do with my own kids, rather than tell them, I demonstrate it. You know, I think they say you become or you should become what you teach. So the great thing for me was to see Bill Dobbins play recitals every year. He gave a big recital, always playing in jazz clubs. He wrote books. He was recording. Dr. Ricker put together a bunch of play-along records, which were great play-along records. We bought those. So for me, it was leading by example to be in this school. That was so helpful for me, you know. So that's off the subject, and I totally forgot the question that you just asked.
Well, how do you balance being, I guess you kind of already answered that question.
You know,
How
I
do you
think balance will
two
come
jobs?
in itself because the world will make you balance itself. Whatever project I have, right now I'm preparing for a concert in 2 weeks, no, 4 weeks with my big band called The Night at the Cotton Club. So I'm constantly working on that and music from the Cotton Club era. And we did a similar concert here with the orchestra with Jeff. I helped him put together. But I'll work on new music for that with the new guest artist. But I'm going to Quebec in 2 weeks to play the Quebec Symphony, and that's a different show, so I'm trying to work on that. So life will do that to you. The thing to do, I think, as a musician is coming up is like how many, as I just said with Ricker and Dobbins and all this, how many opportunities can I create? I think many people don't know that we are the entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
When I was here, I wasn't as aware of that. I was like, I'm going to go play in somebody else's band. That's done. Like, you know, you got to make your own band. You know, one of the things I think Ray told me is that you guys are supposed to make a CD before you leave school. I mean, when you graduate, what if you had your website already up, if you had your CD all ready to go, on and on and on. So somebody said, who are you and what do you do? If they could immediately say, oh, I'll go to your website.
Yeah.
Oh, where's your CD? Give me a copy of that. What are you doing? Where's your Facebook page? Does it say what you've been doing on there? And they have all these ways to instantly. Otherwise, you're already behind if you leave school and that's not happening. That's one of my missions in life. It's to have people leave school and to kind of have some idea of what they want to do. The answer I hate from kids is well, we'll see what happens. It's well, I know what's going to happen. Nothing. And you'll go and you'll get your doctorate and then your postdoctorate and then your postdoctorate and then your post-predoctorate and then you'll just be in school the whole time. That's the one magic phrase. What can you create for yourself? And by the way, the world is looking and waiting and wanting your talents. Now, they won't pull it out of you. You've got to give it to them. But the world wants to hear what you've got to offer. It's it's all bubbling inside you, and you're either going to push it down or you're going to let it come out. And that's the hard part, because that's fearful. To let this stuff come out. It's fearful to walk out here on stage, I'm going to walk out there. I'm going to be scared as heck. Can I say heck at Eastman? I'm going to be really scared. But, we talked about physiology before. I always say, and this is an important point, it's like fake it till you make it. Shakespeare said, assume a virtue if you have it not. Assume a virtue. So fake it till you make it. It's the same thing. It's like the studies have shown if you act like you're confident and if you do the things that are required to stand on the stage, if you get the credentials. Bill Dobbins used to say, you've got to have your credentials to stand on stage. And I always remembered that because I was well, what are the credentials? And that's the daily practice that you do every single day. I practiced yesterday in one of the practice rooms here. And I was telling my wife about this. They still stink to high heaven. They smell like poopies, as I would tell my kid. They really do. But you know what? That's where you're supposed to be, and it's supposed to smell like that. That's really your gym, right? When you go to the gym does not smell good. You got people's feet stinking and the athlete's foot, and it's very stinky. That's what a practice room is, and that's what you've got to experience first. For hour after hour after hour, and then that allows you to stand here. So if you've done that work up in those stinky, stanky practice rooms, and then you come out here, this is joyful, and you don't even get nervous. The nervousness that you have is the excitement that you get to share with people, all that stuff that we said was inside you. And that's not nervousness, it's excitement. You get to share with all those people. And then really what happens is that becomes a gift for them. Because what we know is that music is food for the soul, right? And it provides valuable nourishment for the community. If we can uplift, and if I can uplift these people tonight and make them feel better, if I can give them a musical experience, if at some point they can get chills like this, wow. And that's not something that's tangible for people. Like if you say, well, what is music? They asked Louis Armstrong that. They said, what is jazz? And he said, if you have to ask, you'll never know. The goal is to have people come to a concert and for them to know it. And they may not be able to express it verbally or say it, but they'll know it, they'll feel it, and they'll say, I'm coming back. And why am I coming back? Because it changed my life. I feel better as a person. My heart is open because I came to this concert and the music moved me. That's, to answer your question about what can we do to develop new audiences, that's what they're getting when they watch Lady Gaga, but they don't realize that that's basically an image thing. It's a visual thing. When everybody talks about and I love Lady Gaga, it's great, but anybody talks about any pop music, they always describe what happened visually.
That's true.
They say, oh, it was a smoke thing that came out, and then people were dancing all over the place, and then you should have seen them, the people were jumping off and they give you a visual description. But classical music, great jazz music, any great art music can move them from their hearts without the visual element, right? And when they feel that, it's like an addiction. It's like a virus that goes through their body, great music, for which there is no cure. Because once they get it, they want to get it again.
Now,
don't ask me another question because I'll go 25 minutes.
This can kind of go along with what you were saying. I mean, you've gotten your hands in other forms of art, and you did some acting for a while. So what led you to audition for Satchmo? And how
She did her homework right. She's good. She's good.
How did that help you being a musician today?
Yeah, because theater, well, there's two things. When you study acting, it's really therapy. It's like going to therapy. And I needed therapy really bad. Can we have a session right now? Now, what you have to do with acting is you have to draw upon your life experiences to bring to life to stage, whatever emotions you're trying to portray. So in the show I was working on was about Louis Armstrong. I had to see what it felt like the first time he played with Fletcher Henderson's band and what those feelings were. So I had to go back to my own emotions. I left here and I went to play with Lionel Hampton's band, and I was scared out of my mind, So you put those same emotions to play and you use that. So what the theater taught me in working in acting is that every concert, for me, the way I do concerts, every concert is a show. Don't say that to a jazz musician who's a diehard jazz musician. And those are the same guys that get mad when they only play to 5 people, but that's another story. But every concert's a show. It's a presentation. Let's use that word. And so we have to map out, and this is what Jeff and I are working on now. It's like he called me this morning, and he's like, this tune's not working, that's not working, you got to do this, you got to put this here. And it's nice if you have somebody where you think alike, because I think very much like Jeff, and I learned a lot from him. So what the theater teaches you is about timing. It teaches you about pacing. Mm-hmm. See, a concert is also a piece of music. Mm-hmm. I learned that from John Mulcherry, great conductor. A whole concert can be conceptualized as just a piece of music. So there's ups and downs. One thing Jeff said, there's too many loud songs in this. And there's not enough so let's go and do a couple of those last things we play. A couple just New Orleans sort of softer things with less instrumentation. That'll cool it off, then it'll be more effective when we play this bigger stuff. So what I learned from that acting experience is those things, the pacing, the feeling of a concert, and how you can add drama to a concert, and the ups and downs. That's what a symphony has. Mm-hmm. Tchaikovsky's symphony, there's, all those movements, each one is different. So that's what you learn.
Very cool. So did you have any idea that you would be where you are today and doing all the different things?
Well, I think things grow. I didn't know specifically. I knew that I wanted to be on stage. Mm-hmm. And I had always thought, I think one of the things that's important for us to always do as musicians, and especially at your age, at the age, is dream big dreams and don't be afraid of them. We talked a little bit about that. For people who are fearful, Emerson said, do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. So we have to just begin to do some of the stuff that's really scary for me. This is really scary for me, to come out tonight and play a new show. I haven't slept for a couple of nights. I'm taking every herb I can take, everything except real drugs, to try to calm myself. I'm taking reishi mushrooms, which are very good, believe it or not. Reishi is a great mushroom, calming you. There's an herb called holy basil, tulsi, really calming, because I'm so freaked out, right? But I try to think, even when I was here, who do I want to play with? One of the things that's valuable for people is to write down, who do you want to play with? Mm-hmm. Get a piece of paper and write down. I wrote down I wanted to play with Count Basie, I wanted to play with Lionel Hampton. I wrote down all these people. And then you put that list away and you can revisit it every once in a while. Mm-hmm. But guess what? It'll start to pop up. Just the fact that you have the courage to write it down will help you. But most people won't write it down. Hear that. Most people won't write it down. But if you do write it down, that challenge of making yourself, I'm good enough for this, write it down. Commit it to paper. When Jim Carrey moved to Hollywood, he wrote himself a check for $10 million. And he put it in his wallet and he carried it around with him for 5 years. When he got his first major movie, guess how much he was paid for? They negotiated a contract for $10 million. Write stuff down. Just don't be afraid. Right? I have a check in my pocket now for $20 billion. And I'm sharing it with everybody, and I'm going to pay down the national debt when I finish. No, but that is a true story.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Can I tell you some stories about Dr. Ricker before we...
Sure, go right ahead.
Well, no, I can't. No. Because if I did, then his tenure would be sacrificed.
I think we love him too much here.
Can you imagine all the people that every sax player that I know that left during the period that I was here is out doing great things as a sax player? Andy Weinsler, Walt Weiskopf, Nelson Hill, Brian Scanlon. These are guys all that are in major places in music. Brian Scanlon works all over Los Angeles, plays with Gordon Goodwin Big Band, plays all studio, all kind of stuff. And it's because of the incredible teaching of Dr. Ricker, which so many people have been influenced by. And even the fun thing is with Ray, with Bill Dobbins, and even Ray Wright, who's no longer with us, their teaching is such an important thing. If anybody out there wants to be a teacher, talk about changing lives. Even more than a musician, you have personal impact upon people. Your belief in the student that you have, and many times, like Bill Dobbins pushed me almost over the edge because he knew I was jiving. And this school was about that. Ray Wright was good at that. Like when you weren't making the grade, they'd let you know. Let your teachers push you, but always have that confidence that they're doing it because they have a belief in you. And make your beliefs about what you can do strong. They used to say, what you believe with feeling is important. What you believe with feeling becomes your reality. So I want everybody here to believe that you can be the musician that you want to be if you see setbacks only as part of the plot. And just keep moving forward and stay tenacious in what you want to do.
Thank you so much.
You.
I think that was some awesome advice.
Good to talk
for
to
all
you.
of our listeners.